All right, mic check, mic check. Morning Masters Podcast, your host, Main, of course. Of course, I got a special guest, Mr. Ken Makin in the building.
Yo, what's going on?
How you doing, man?
I'm fantastic.
We meet again.
Always good to sit down and talk, man.
Different scenario now. No more camera phone. I got a little production, you know what I'm saying? Met this little chubby guy named Slim.
Upscale.
How you been, though?
I'm good, man. Shout out Slim, man.
Hey, shout out to Slim, man.
This is evolution, man. You guys really putting out a good product, man. I think I think people recognize that. So
yeah,
salute to y'all.
We try, man. We try to do the best we can with our time. But Slim has more of it than me.
Nah, I mean, that joke is never gonna get old, is it?
Nah, it's funny. When I say how you doing, just like I know you. Well, I want to tell the listeners again. I guess just kind of reintroduce yourself, as far as like what you do, where you from and stuff like that. So, how would you describe what you do as far as your podcast and your page making a difference?
First of all, Ken Makin, host and founder of the Making a Difference show. I talk about community concerns. Talk a lot about politics, black politics. I do want to be specific about that, and specify that my politics are not party or partisan politics. I care about black people, and so I adjust my politics accordingly. So that's really the spirit of the show. Making a difference. It's podcasting, it's writing, it's freelancing. It's a lot of different things, but ultimately it's about service and information.
Now, initially though, you were a writer, right? Initially,
sure,
by nature.
Yeah, and I'll go through that very briefly. So I started. I left FAM in 2004, Florida A&M University. And I started writing for the Aiken Standard. So I've been, Aiken Standard. I worked at the Metro Courier a bit. But long story short, I went from being a writer to being on the radio. And so I worked at WKZK. I started there in about 2015, the same year I got married. Shout out my wife, beautiful wife. So I got married. Yeah, I got married in 2015. And
beautiful sister-in-law, by the way. Yeah, you ain't never gonna do that, did you?
May never forgets. That's the beautiful thing about May, man. Hey, plus he respect the shooter. He is shooter.
Yeah, you know me. You know me, man. Curry.
But man, got married in 2015, and just wanted something a little more stable. So I transitioned the radio show from being on WKZK, shout out KZK, to doing something like an internet radio, and that's where the podcast began. I've been doing that ever since.
Okay.
Yeah, so I do, a little bit of everything. I've had the chance to do the podcast over the last 5 years. It's been great. I've learned a lot personally. I've also more recently had a chance to do some writing, for outlets. Written some for ESPN. I've written a lot for the Christian Science.
It's been a good year for you writing wise, I think.
Man,
last 12 months.
It's been a great, in terms of, and I always say this with respect to the pandemic because so many people have died. And even beyond the pandemic, when you think about George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, like a lot of folks have been able to make careers off of their lives and them having lost their lives. So I always say, man, like, pay respect where respect is due. Ahmaud Arbery, same energy, man. But so it's been a year where I've had a chance to share my perspective on the world and my perspective on black politics with a lot of people, man. I think people have responded to it really well.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up. So like, I know you said you kind of focus on black politics, right? And this is just a question I want to ask you just to begin real quick. But how tough is that when it's kind of being looked at as just a staple in media because now you're just on one side, you know what I'm saying? So you're not really shedding light on all things politics, just all things black.
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned that because what I do is I address the world and I talk about the things that's going on in the world, going on in our country, local, so on and so forth. It's more about a perspective, I think, than politics. So it's not like I'm not going to talk about that. I'm not going to talk about that. I'll talk about anything. I'm just going to talk about it in a way that's relatable and relevant to black people, which is really a perspective that you don't get, I think, in mass media. Even with the pandemic, it's a lot of folks, they say, well, black people get, coronavirus more than, disproportionately more than anybody else. But nobody told the story statistically about frontline workers. Nobody told the story about, people not being able to work from black folks statistically, not being able to work from home and how that correlated to those higher numbers. And so it's just, like I said, it's really just about a lens of attention to detail that is of service to black folks. And that's what I do.
So All right, so when you think about just the pandemic as it relates to Black people, right? What was your first thoughts on it? Like when it first happened, like back in February, March. Like do you think we're gonna last this long?
Man, I really didn't have it was really like more of an indefinite thing at that time. I saw the response because and understanding I saw the response here and I saw the response all over the world. And what I realized is that very quickly the pandemic had become politicized in a way that I thought it would last longer than it should have.
Right,
and I think we've seen across the world where other countries have, I don't want to say resolved it, but they've curbed it in a way where they've been able to go back to their daily lives and have sporting events and different things like that. What we've done here in this country is that we've politicized this pandemic to the point where we don't want to mandate masks, and people say, well, it's this is a fraud or a hoax, but at the same time we've tried to quote unquote go back to normal. Which hasn't worked in terms of when you think about the number of deaths, when you think about just all of these different things that are going on. And so you find yourself in a place now where we're actually starting to see record cases now.
Again, yeah.
But the attitude is different than it was in March. And so we're in a very perilous place. I'm talking about people now about this holiday trifecta. So you have Halloween, you have Thanksgiving, you have Christmas. What's going to happen? People are going to want to get out and shop.
Gather.
They're going to gather. Long story short, want to be with their families. So what's going to happen? These cases, but the energy's different. So what's going to happen is more people are going to die. And I don't want to be dramatic when I say that. I'm just speaking about the facts of it. And then when you look at it proportionally or disproportionately as it relates to Black folks, that's more of us being put in harm's way. That can go a lot of different ways. One of the most disappointing things that I saw about the pandemic, and I'll just share with y'all what I felt like should have happened with it. So all this started breaking out in March, 3rd month. There should have been a 6-month plan to pay adequate unemployment. And what was happening with that discussion is that, okay, and I really don't want to make this about Democrats or Republicans. I'm just for the sake of argument.
We're gonna get there at some point.
Sure.
Well.
But I do want to say that Republicans had the attitude of, we got to get back to work. We got to get back to work. And another issue with unemployment was they saying, well, some people are making more money on unemployment than they are, while they're at work.
I've seen that a lot.
Which shouldn't be an indictment on people or on unemployment. It should be an indictment of wages and the poor wages that we pay in this country. But just to say, okay, 6 months, you pay unemployment, people are making more than they've made previously. All right, so you pay unemployment adequately, you mandate masks, light mandates, just where there's a sense of accountability for people having to wear masks in public. And you do this for 6 months. I can tell you what's going to happen by month 4, month 5. Same thing is happening all over the world. You're going to start curbing the cases. Cases are going to start going down. You still got a month or two where you got a windfall where people are making more money, so on and so forth. You come back in September. What's starting in September? You got schools that are starting back up. You got college sports and all these different type things. All of these things are happening at the same time where people are going to get back to work. The morale is higher. You're going to have a roaring economy. So in September, what we should have had was full steam ahead. Good energy. However you felt about the president, well, former president now, but however you felt about that man would have had a lot to run on had they dealt with the pandemic in a way that would have served the people. They didn't. They did it in a way that served the corporations. And so you have this current state of affairs that is still not helping anybody but the corporations.
Man, I ain't gonna lie, you good with the words, man. The way you worded that was amazing. I don't look at it that way. I mean, I do, but I guess I never could really say it how you say it. You know what I'm saying? But I do want to ask you, because you said something about politicizing. I listened to a podcast about Breonna Taylor. Okay. You also said that was something they did with that as well. Like, when it comes to, like, I think I had a hat, but like just apparel, people making it on a shirt, it becoming some people just wearing. The NBA player, they would just kept talking about that the whole time, right? Yeah. I thought that was a different way to look at it. I ain't look at it that way, you know what I'm saying? Not thinking that in due time it would just be a thing now. Now it's just something we just saying. As opposed to keeping her name alive, it's just like it's becoming common.
Yeah.
And people not even knowing what really happened sometimes.
Memification is the word that I use to describe it. And again, it just kind of goes back to this idea of people making a career off of the backs of dead folks. And I'm always, if I'm going to mention Breonna Taylor, if I'm going to mention George Floyd, I feel compelled personally to fight for a world and speak in a way that proactively says we got to change this thing. If you're going to have a conversation about Breonna Taylor, if you're going to have a conversation about George Floyd, then you got to have a conversation that has some type of anti-police sentiment. And I'm going to go ahead and get this out so we can get this thing cracking. George Floyd was killed in May. So in May, you got all this marching, you got Black Lives Matter, all this sentiment. We went from that in May to now in November, we're celebrating the architect of the crime bill being elected president and the vice prosecutor. What happened? What happened where we got from a point where we said, we got to do something different about the police, to basically voting people who said, well, we're going to put some more money in the police. You know, we're going to look at police reforms. Well, we talked about that back in 2014 with Mike Brown. We've talked about that for decades, really, with no profound gains, no results, no difference in you coming out here and, you know, being on the wrong end of a traffic stop. That none of that has changed. And I understand. And like I said, I know I'm kind of going in a different direction. People are happy about getting Trump out. And I understand that. Truly, I understand that. And I think there's a significant portion of us that are happy about that. But you also have to deal with, again, what does this mean for black people? What does this mean in terms of black politics?
Yeah, I tell you, I feel the same exact way. So I haven't been parading, but you know, it's kind of like, all right, cool, we got one out of there, but now what we gonna do? So I definitely, I'm with you on that one. So I do wanna, I guess, because the first 10 minutes was kind of deep. I'm not gonna lie, I like that though. You know what I'm saying? You came to play. I do want to ask you. I guess we can go straight into it. Let's talk about the election, right? Okay. And I'm glad that we weren't able to do this episode earlier, because then we wouldn't have the results yet.
Right.
Even if we did it last week, because apparently it was like a 5-day thing this year. 2020 just been a long year, and everything just long this year. The whole process. I guess the COVID counting. Hell of a year, yo. Now that all the COVID counts are over, you know what I'm saying, and we know now Trump is leaving, Biden is entering. What was your thoughts on Trump's first 4 years? You see it bubbling up. What were your thoughts on Trump's 4 years? Like
Trump's 4 years, it went.
And if you had to rate his performance from 1 to 10,
oh man, Trump's 4 years. There's so much to talk about. Oh my God. I mean, it's disappointing to say the least, but the transition is the thing. And even now, we're transitioning from Trump to Biden. I'll tell you how I felt in 2016. And actually, I'm going to go back to 2013. Because in 2013, I actually went to the presidential inauguration. And I remember how I felt at that time. My wife, she took pictures with Soledad O'Brien, you know, Beyonce singing the national anthem. Like, I felt like how a lot of people feel now in 2020 about, you know, Kamala Harris and Biden and all these, you know, these different type of things. That was my vibe. You know, I was like, yeah, we really about to make some things change.
In there.
Yeah. And so 2016 happened, and the telltale sign for me was that in Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, you had two of the most undesirable candidates literally in history. And they said, okay, well, this is what you got to choose from. And I said, no, I don't. So at that point, I was telling people, I said, y'all, this got to be the paradigm shift. This has got to be the change. Like, we got to do third party something. People said, no, we can't. Well, we can't get Trump in office. Can't get Trump in office. Okay. So what happens is that you have a candidate who wins the popular vote, but doesn't win, you know, is not elected president, which is a problem in and of itself. Because if you tell me in terms of the voting process, if you say one man, one vote, one woman, one vote, then how come the popular vote doesn't yield the presidency? That's an issue.
Right.
Which to me, and I'm saying this stuff in 2016, you know, and people were kind of like boo and throwing tomatoes and stuff, and I can accept that. Like I said, I can accept a little criticism, but I'm saying then we got to do away with the electoral college. You're starting to hear some more of these sentiments now because they've dealt with the 4 years of Trump. And I know I'm kind of talking around your question, but I really want to kind of build the conditions in which
I'm glad you acknowledged it because you was giving me political vibes for a second. I said I don't know now, but now at least you acknowledge it. I got you. I'll ready to ask again.
For president, ain't it?
I'm trying to tell you.
no, I'm definitely coming back to the question at hand.
I wanted to ask you though. I ain't want to interrupt.
No, that's cool.
So, would you feel comfortable having the people pick the president? Like, you want the popular vote?
Hell yeah.
I've been asking you that all week. I want you to explain.
I'm with it.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't understand.
Sure. So here's the thing. Like right now, and I think generally is if you're in a state, the popular vote does you get those electoral votes. I think it's 48 states in the District of Columbia, and I forget offhand which 2 states it is that there's a different process. If it kind of goes to that. Here's my thing. And people say, well, if you get rid of the electoral college. It's going to basically be determined from, by California, Texas, New York, and Florida.
Like it already.
Which it
does.
pretty much is. Florida, well, California, mostly, it goes blue. Texas and Florida, well, California and New York mostly go blue. Texas and Florida, well, at this point, are going red. So, I mean, it's still 2-2 in that way. Let the people decide, man. To me, it's as simple as if you're gonna say, if you have this institution that you're saying, okay, well, we're gonna let the people decide, and then at the end of the day, you defer to the electoral college. To me, that's is nonsensical. So,
do you think that is that where that comes from? People thinking their vote don't matter because they live in like a red state or a blue state.
When you say your vote doesn't matter, to me, that's a more expansive conversation. Because when you say, and I'm hesitant to say this because of what we've just seen in Georgia.
Right.
I think there's a way that voting can be overrated, and I'll explain what I mean by that because I don't want people to get caught on what Ken's saying voting doesn't. Voting is a means to an end. In a way that you say, if I vote for this person, then this person is going to help me get better health care. This person is going to help me to get clean water. And the profound issue that I have with that is that people should be working on that stuff now. And I'll take it a step further. Right now, you got Democrats and Republicans. Okay, let me start over. Health care, Medicare for all. To me, we're in the middle of a pandemic. And I think you need to take it further. I think it needs to be free healthcare. That's another discussion. But what you have from Republicans and Democrats is you have neither party who, in terms of their establishment, that are saying Medicare for all. You have progressive Democrats that are saying that, but what's happening with this? This conversation is being had right now. You got Nancy Pelosi, you got Jim Clyburn, who was just on TV earlier today, who was saying, look, we can't take this thing too far to the left. We can't defund the police. We can't do Medicare for all. Why not? As soon as May, there was a profound anti-police sentiment that shook the nation, that reinvigorated Black Lives Matter. You're living in a pandemic where over 200,000 people have died, where people have died for being turned back from hospitals that had COVID symptoms. I feel like right now, if you got a sore throat, man, I don't know. You should be able to go somewhere and get a COVID test in 15 minutes.
Yeah, because we got a rule in here. If you cough, you got to leave.
Look, not just play calls. So I'm like, well, I got to go then. Look, but there's a standard and expectation that I have as a taxpayer. And I don't know if I'm talking around your question. I don't know if I answered your specific question.
Yeah, you answered.
Okay, I just want to make sure. But that's my standard, and I'm not gonna let a politician sitting up, with a cushy lifestyle, tell me no, you can't have it. I rebuke it. No, I want mine. And when I say I want mine, understand. A lot of different people have said this in a lot of different ways. Muhammad Ali, Fannie Lou Hamer. I'm not free until we all free, and that's my attitude. Is that I walk in grocery stores and retail places and and I saw these people that was making $11 an hour, and I said, those people are working in the middle of a pandemic. You're calling them essential workers. They should be making hazard pay. So they should be making $22 an hour, and when overtime kicks in, they should be making $33 an hour. Now what happens is that you say, well, that's a high school kid's job. They shouldn't be making that much. Hell, you say? again, they are working in the middle of a pandemic. It's about not just putting a title on people and then saying, well, get back to work. It's about putting a title on people and showing your respect by your wage, by their wages. That's where the respect comes in. Don't just pat me on the back. Pay what you owe or pay what I deserve. So.
All right, so the Trump, you didn't get back to that.
Trump.
But I got you.
No. We're
We
gonna talk about it.
Okay,
We're gonna talk about Trump.
So
Awful. Yeah, I mean, because but see, here's the thing for me is that okay, so this man gets put in office who came up with all of this racially divisive rhetoric. So I mean, we knew what the score was gonna be in terms of it would divide the country in a way where some people would be angry with Trump, and rightfully so, but then other people would feel emboldened, by what he says. And I think, and you still have that element. I'm just trying to think about just specific ways that I can think about. Well, here's the thing about Trump is that Trump said, I'm going to make the economy better. You didn't do that either. and that was the thing that he said, well, I'm gonna make America great again. Like where? I mean, look at the country now. I mean, even if you took the pandemic out, like you have one. Let me make sure I do this right. 1 out of 9 people in this country who are living below the poverty line, and this is supposed to be the greatest country in the world. You have just like these profound pockets of poverty, like, and I'm not just talking about black. I'm talking about black and white people. Where's the social uplift for these folks who voted for you, thinking that, hey man, Trump was supposed to be this anti-establishment candidate. And Trump has been anything but. If anything, Trump has bolstered business as usual. Like he's been an establishment candidate. Trump didn't drain the swamp. Trump built up the swamp. And but there's a lot of things that happen where it's just, it was terrible 4 years.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I have seen videos, and I mean, like I said, politics is not my thing. I'm not that deep into it. I know a little bit here and there. I know words, you know what I'm saying? But I've seen video of people. I have seen somebody say that he's done more for black people than Obama did.
I want to get into that.
I got a new laugh to post. I like posting laughs. So.
No, that's cool. I want to get into that because the fact that you can put that out there is an indictment of Trump as much as it is Obama. And I'll explain what I mean. There was a way that Obama governed that said, I can't do things for solely black people. Mm-hmm. And that's a problem because black people voted for you overwhelmingly. And there should be some type of return on investment. You could look at historically black colleges. There were some black presidents who were dissatisfied with, how Obama managed that situation. So it allowed a person like Donald Trump to come in. I mean, Trump had him at the White House. It was for a photo op, and Trump wasn't going to get anything done. But it was just that picturesque thing that allowed him to say, well, look, I've done more for black people than Barack Obama. It's categorically false. But some of Obama's failures in terms of social uplift for black folks allowed Trump to come in there and be disingenuous. Mm-hmm. And we have to talk about those things. We're afraid to talk about those things because we're afraid to criticize Obama. I'm not, but I think black folks are. That was one of the biggest things is that, okay, back in 2016, 8 years had gone by, and I look back and I was like, well, what did we really get out of this thing? And outside of, man, the first lady, they take some really good pictures together.
Got a good song from Jeezy.
You're getting these just symbolic things, but nothing that's real meat and potatoes. Got
you. And I mean, like I said, when people do talk politics, I think it's a perspective thing too. Mm-hmm. So sometimes they'll throw stuff at you, and if you don't know, if you're not doing your research, it might just sound like it might be right. Yeah. I have seen people say stuff and go down the line and say unemployment was this, is that. Mm-hmm. I don't have no paper in front of me saying it was really that. Yeah. They could tell me it was anything in 2008, and if I don't know it, I'm going to go based on what they're saying. You know what I'm saying?
Well, the good thing about a lot of that stuff is just fact checks. Trump, statistically, is like one of the most disingenuous, like lying presidents, like by the numbers. Like you can go back and say, I mean, just a lot of the speeches, a lot of the, State of the Unions and stuff like that. You can say, well, the man's lying.
As opposed to right now, do you think he'll go down as the worst president we ever had? I know it's hard to say that because we had president during slavery and all that stuff. I'm talking about like, you know.
Yeah. It's hard. I'm gonna tell you why it's hard to say, because there's this weird thing we do with people now politically. Is like we reinvent them. So like we feel differently about George Bush than we do now because he gave Michelle Obama a peppermint.
Chill out.
Oh, I'm going too far. I'm sorry.
But no, for real, and social media do that for you too.
Right. We reinvent these people with little to no political context. So it's just like they're just figments of our imagination. So we get civility is a word I was talking about recently. And so we say, well, this person did a great concession speech. And we just totally forget about this person's like voting record, like the things that they did. Like understand, like George Bush, like 9/11, understand what the ramifications of all of those things.
Right,
and we just forget about it. He treated Michelle Obama nice in this one instance. You know what I mean? So those are the type of and so I feel like people are going to do that with Trump. My gut feeling, right or wrong, it's on the record now. So we'll see what happens.
But I do want to, since you said that though, we often talk about as a person in politics, politician, however you want to call it. Like if let's say in 90 they were one way, and let's say now it's 2020, and can we be okay with them having different views 30 years later? Or should they just be like, in 91, if you said you voted for this, that's what you are for the rest of your life because you voted for that at that point. Can you not change your views years later?
That's a great question. The short answer is yes, but then I'm going to use Joe Biden as an example of how that can be. Right. And I understand that. I mean, I've evolved politically from 2012 to now. Like, I've seen a change in myself in 8 years in terms of my standard and, political affiliations and all these different types of things. So there's room for adaptation and evolving. What we've seen from Joe Biden is a history, not just of the crime bill, but of the comments that he's made about black folks. Even just to say things like, you're not black if you vote for Trump. That's profoundly disrespectful.
That was wild.
Yeah. But the word there is entitlement. Like you feel like a certain entitlement to black people voting for you based on what? I'm serious. So you've got Biden. You've got his history, his kind of cozying up to segregationists. I know he did the eulogy at Strom Thurmond's funeral. There's this troubling racial and almost racist history that people have really done their homework on, and they're not wrong about. But what's happened is that we've elected this gentleman because he's not Trump. So
that's what it comes down to, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, and the question you have to ask yourself as an individual is okay, is not Trump or never Trump, is that going to pay your bills? Is that going to clean your water? Is that going to get you improved wages? Is that going to get you better health care? That's what we're about to find out over the next, few months and few years. I have a theory. I don't think it is, but I mean, it's kind of a laugh now, cry later type of thing. And it's unfortunate because, well, we'll get into that, I'm pretty sure.
All right. I do want to play a game of Making a Difference real quick.
Ooh,
I like that.
Love games.
All right. So, Making a Difference or not. You know how the game goes. I'm going to throw something out there. You tell me
yes,
if Making a
sir.
Difference or not. All right. Oh, boy. I don't want to start with this one. Let's start with this one.
No,
right.
start it.
Biden winning the election.
Not making a difference. No, heck no. Here's the thing. Black man, black politics. Joe Biden, what are you going to do about the police? Are you going to defund the police? No. And let's break this defund thing down. Because what defund is really a reallocation of resources. It's to say, city of North Augusta, for example, which is where I reside, 46% of the general fund budget is spent on public safety. That's a problem. There's an additional 30% that's spent on general government. So you're spending 76% of the general fund budget. That is to say, you talk about taxpayer expenditures and all these different types of things. So that taxpayer money is basically going to the government. There's less than a quarter left for public works, all these, resources that will actually help people. North Augusta desperately at this time needs public transit. I see people walking through North Augusta all the time. I see people, like, I'll go to Walmart and maybe in there for an hour shopping, and I come out and see the same people. Are they waiting on a ride? What are they? And see, my thing is I'm the type of person where if I see a person, and I'll just talk to them and I'll say, hey, how do you feel about this? There was a young lady actually I had had a chance to talk to, and I said, well, how would you feel about North Augusta like needing having a bus service? And she, I could just tell she really paused, and it really resonated with her. You know what I mean? Like that was something that.
So they don't have one at all.
Yeah, I mean they have what's called the Best Friend Express, but nothing even in the way of how the city of Augusta has transit, which is imperfect, and that's another discussion. But those type of things like city services that aren't provided. But going back to the original question of Joe Biden, Joe Biden is not going to defund the police. So Joe Biden is saying, as a matter of fact, he's going to put more money into the police. So here's the thing. You go to a restaurant and you get bad service. You're probably not going to go back to that restaurant, which is to say that or if you go to a restaurant and you get the wrong order, there's a chance that you're either going to ask for your order to be corrected, or you're going to get your money back. Mm-hmm. That is to say that if someone is not providing an adequate service, you take the money back. It's as such it is with black folks and the police. How comfortable are you as a black man in this country with policing? Are you satisfied with policing?
Not at all.
Not at all. And there are solutions. The solution is to say, okay, to look at mental health, to look at, okay, we need to put some money in dedicating those resources. We need to put money in. I'll say it like this. We put money in policing with the idea of stopping crime. But crime is a symptom of poverty. So we always hear about politicians, what they say, I'm tough on crime, I'm tough on crime. Be tough on poverty. Because if you're tough on poverty, then you'll be tough on crime. And so that's what I want to see from government. And I understand that reallocating money from policing to anti-poverty efforts is going to reduce crime. And it's gonna provide social uplift for people. So that's where, and that's one piece of it. Joe Biden is in this place where, and I'll talk about Biden and Trump, because what Biden and Trump have done, I'm doing this in relationship to the camera because people, yeah. So you got Biden here, you got Trump here, and so Biden is creeping ever so closely toward Trump, and Biden is understanding. People say Biden's a Democrat, but Biden's a Republican. You basically had two Republicans running for.
Facts.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, you got two Republicans running. You had Republican light, and I'm hesitant to say that just because he's hella Republican. But you have a traditional Republican, moderate Republican, and you have a far right Republican. So the whole time, Trump's taking the discussion further to the right. Now, if you really want a political balance, Joe Biden should be moving in this direction. Didn't happen. Every time Trump moved to the right. So Trump says, Joe Biden, you want to ban fracking. This is an issue of environmental justice. Biden's like, no, I don't want to ban fracking. He's moving a little bit closer to the right. You want to defund the police? I don't want to defund the police. Conversation's moving to the right. So now there's a political shift that's happening in this country that's taking everything to the right. What does that mean? You're not going to get what you need in terms of reallocating police resources. You're not going to get what you need in terms of healthcare. You're not going to get what you need in terms of progressive things that are going to create social uplift for everybody, which is what we need now because people want to restore the soul of our nation. All these other BS rhetorical things that you get over here, from Republicans. And basically it's like this. Joe Biden, Republican. Donald Trump, Tea-publican, as in Tea Party. So that's the distinction there. No, he's not making a difference.
Not making a difference at all.
Hey, no.
Oh.
And people are gonna look at this and they're gonna say, "Ken, you a hater?" Because they.
Oh yeah, they're gonna be angry.
Yeah,
happy right now.
Because that's the thing is that I understand the relief because again, you're getting rid of Trump. But it's like, what did you put in that? What did you put in that seat? I don't think, and I'll be honest with you, I don't think people are excited about Biden in general. I think people are just glad to get rid of Trump.
Yeah.
Biden didn't really inspire, confidence in folks.
The next one I had talking about voting the lesser of two evils in politics. Does that make a difference or not? Like voting the less of the two evils?
Voting less. No, it doesn't make a difference. It actually perpetuates the status quo.
That's kind of what you just said. After that.
Yeah. And that's this will make it make sense. No, I'm not exasperated. I'm just really kind of collecting my thoughts, and I think if you see and when I say establishment, because there are distinctions. When you talk about Democrats, you have progressive Democrats, people like Cori Bush, the Squad. People talk about AOC and these folks. They're more progressive than the establishment Democrats. When you talk about establishment Democrats and you talk about establishment Republicans, you're really talking about a corporate duopoly. What I mean by that is that when we was first trying to get our checks, the little $1,200, the one thing that Democrats and Republicans could agree on was corporate bailouts. There was we know we got to take care of these corporations. Where there was the back and forth and where there was the delay was getting the money to the American people. What that says to me is that this that the two-party system, and I say corporate duopoly, which is to say it's like a one party.
Right.
They care more about the uplift of corporations and taking care of the establishment than they do with everyday people. Yeah, that's why you hear stuff about like, oh, well, they're rioting. It turned like people. There's some people who get madder about the destruction of property than they do the destruction of lives. That's where we are in this country, and it's unacceptable for me as a black man, because I know that when these conversations are had, what you're saying is that this building is worth more than my life or your life. No, never. But the question was about voting the lesser of two evils. Again, it perpetuates the status quo in a way that you don't get the profound social change that you need.
Got you.
Yeah.
The last one I had for this particular one was I know Slim not gonna like this one, but the Falcons leading into the fourth quarter.
I don't even watch the Falcons no more.
Hey, man.
Today, I was in here with you. I don't watch the Falcons anymore.
We can actually go into. I haven't seen a football game in 2 years.
Wow.
I get my.
And you run a sports page.
And it's funny how that works. Because I'm
doing phenomenal. By the way.
I'm kind of thank you. I'm kind of telling to myself. I get my information off of memes and kind of I may see something in a ticker, but sports is predictable in that way. When you talk about and we'll get back to it because I have a unique contempt for the Falcons. I'll go back to that. But I think sports is predictable in a way, particularly in the NFL, where it's about 5 or 6 teams that are in it every year.
Right.
And you may get a wild card here, literally every once in a while.
Titans or the
yeah. But mostly it's business as usual. It's going to be Steelers, Packers. The Cowboys they're relevant. They're not winning, but they're always going to be relevant. But Patriots. They're going to be teams that are going to be in the mix every year. They're going, man, how did such and such get that player for a 6th-round pick and all that? This weird stuff that always builds up and perpetuates these teams. Right. And it's the establishment type of dynamic. Man, if I didn't hate the Falcons so much, I would empathize. Like, you got to understand, 28-3 like ruined that franchise. Because you were minutes away from a Super Bowl, which that franchise has been there for 50 years. And, they've kind of been mediocre the entire time. But that was their moment. That was their moment in the sun. And the franchises, it's been almost like this blooper reel ever since. And Bomani Jones with ESPN says it best because he's actually he's from Houston, but he's spent time he went to college in Atlanta. And he's saying, like, get off that narcotic. And that's my thing for Falcons fans. Like, you don't have to deal with this. There's a better life out there. Like, and I understand the local loyalty. It's a better life. You can get off that narcotic, man. You don't have to deal with that.
You ain't got to deal with that, man. Y'all deserve it.
I'm loyal to a default.
Oh, you that person?
Yeah, but I ain't about to sit here and be no super cheerleader, though.
So I know we talk about Trump. I do want to talk about and I don't know much about this particular person. Just stuff I looked at. I don't know what's good. I looked at the bad stuff. I'm not gonna lie. Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
That's her name, Kamala, I guess.
Well, and see, that's everybody's making distinctions about how to pronounce it. So it's comma, like I'm trying to say apostrophe, but punctuation. So Kamala Harris, yeah.
Okay.
Harris, yeah.
I guess I was adding the blackness to it, so I probably should take it away.
But see, it's and that's the thing about us, man.
Yeah. So Kamala, that sounds better. What's your thoughts on her? Like, what I need to know about her? Like, what's good? What's the good stuff? Because they telling me
I'm a girl.
No, I'm gonna get fussed at about this.
They telling me I'm wrong. They're saying no, she's not the person you're saying she is. She's good for us. She's the first black vice president. So I need to know a little bit.
Female.
Yeah.
Her record
right.
her record in California is has left a lot to be desired. I want to talk about Kamala as more of an idea. and it'll make sense once I kind of go through it. I think it's important to have role models and things that you aspire to. Michelle Obama, Oprah Winfrey, Beyonce, and I think these are women that people look up to, and understandably so. But it's important to understand that these people are members of the celebrity class, and so their concerns are different from the concerns of working class people. And so when you aspire to celebrity class, you got to understand that that's a destiny that is really not statistically realistic.
Okay.
There are women historically who have aspired toward that standard. Fannie Lou Hamer, Shirley Chisholm, which ironically enough are people now that they're trying to compare with Kamala Harris. Is just simply the comparison is not there. I'll give you an example. And I was actually just talking about this about 30 minutes ago with a good friend of mine. I've been seeing this picture of Kamala walking with the silhouette of Ruby Bridges.
Yeah, I saw that.
Wildly disrespectful, but I want people to understand why. Ruby, because if you're gonna do, this is the thing that we have to understand as Black folks. A racial analysis is not enough. It's tempting to say, okay, race is the thing that we have to worry about. But you also, if you don't have class analysis in conjunction with that, then you'll never understand the full picture. There's a difference in a Black person who makes $400,000 a year versus a Black person who's making $40,000 a year. It's a different struggle. So it's a different type of energy. But I'll go back to Ruby Bridges here very quickly. Ruby Bridges is an icon in a way that she's a figure of who helped to in terms of desegregation. Whose parents were, I want to say her mom or dad, I forget, were sharecroppers. Kamala Harris, conversely, her parents came to this country looking for advanced degrees. So there's a different, it's a different social structure. Why is that important? And that's what people are asking me now. The fight is different. The urgency is different. And so you're presenting Kamala Harris as somebody who she's not in terms of that struggle. And I think you'll start to see it in terms of policy, because again, you have and there's a clip of Kamala that to me describes it. She says something to the effect of, well, you expect me to do to pass policy that's going to be just for Black people? I'm not going to do that. And so when she said that resonated with me, because it kind of takes us back to the Obama thing, where it's like, okay, you're Black, we're voting for you because you're Black, but you're not going to do things specifically for Black people. LGBTQ community, get stuff specifically for them. Hispanics, DACA, specifically for them. I can tell you what I want that to be for Black folks. I want it to be reparations. And based on, and the Biden administration owes Black people in a way, when you look at Atlanta, when you look at Fulton County, when you look at Clayton County, when you look at Detroit, when you look at these, it came down to these Black populaces, this like concentrated like Black voting pockets that got you in the seat, that clinched it for you. How do you pay those people back? With a pat on the back? Or are you going to actually pass policy that's going to close the racial wealth gap? Because that's the thing about reparations. People say, reparations will never happen. And it's like this. Black folks want reparations, but this is part of going back to voting for the lesser of two evils. What voting for the lesser of two evils does is that it desensitizes you to the fact to the point where you don't have political imagination. Reparations isn't just about the money. It's about analyzing history in a way. And I think we've gone through this before.
Yeah, you talk about it.
Yeah, but I don't know if Slim hit. I'm just going to do this for Slim.
Just for Slim.
Just for Slim. It's my brother.
You got time.
We got time. Black folks, we're over here. They said the first Black or African enslaved person was brought over here in 1619. So slavery took place from 1619 to 1863 when we had the Emancipation Proclamation that was signed, which there's a reason why we celebrate Juneteenth, because it took Texas 2.5 years to have that freedom, that freed the slaves. 1865, that was June 19th, 1865, in Texas. the January 1865, the 13th Amendment was already in the works. Congress had already signed off on that 13th Amendment, which says, hey, you're free unless you're convicted of a crime. Then you're basically a slave. So there's no, we're going from, so that, understand, where's the freedom? So we'll leave that there. Slavery, Reconstruction, Jim Crow, war on drugs, prison industrial complex, us sitting here in this room right now. Where's the break for black folks? When is there a period of time in there where you can say, man, black folks had it good? The only thing you have is this, historical timeline of perpetual disrespect that has only widened the racial wealth gap. You got the average, the median wealth of a white family, somewhere in the six figures, like $100,000. For black folks, it's less than $10,000, and that gap is getting wider all the time. There's got to be a federal program that restores that equity. Equality is one thing. Equity is something entirely different. What we need as a people is equity. And I know I went a long ways away, but I wanted to convey that.
Picture. That's
I just want to convey that in a way where people understand why reparations is needed. It's needed because of the traditional and historical disrespect of black people, but also because there needs to be a restoration in terms of the racial wealth gap. And then once you get that, then you can have closure. People say things like post-racial America. You're not going to get that if you don't get equity for black people. And again, it's going to take more than a lump sum of money. There's just a lot of different elements of forgiveness that's got to be placed in there. So.
But I mean, and I guess too, like all in all, like when it comes to Kamala Harris, like what do you think about the two joining forces? And I asked that because
question.
She ran to be in that spot, and we all said no, like no, it's not gonna happen. And he just went and grabbed her, like, hey, I got you. You know what I'm saying? And I thought that was odd. I wanted him to get a different candidate. I'm not gonna sit here and lie. I did want him to get a different candidate. So what are your thoughts on them two like joining forces, and how you think it's gonna be for the actual, I guess, for Democrat Party?
I don't know how to feel about them because I've never really seen them together. I feel like it's a marriage of convenience.
Do we need that in politics though?
No, absolutely not. Because it's kind of like, well, what's going on behind the scenes? It's that type of thing. You got to remember, during the what was that? I'm trying to say the word escapes me, but there was the primaries when Kamala and Joe were going back and forth on that stage.
Exactly.
And she actually challenged him on his busing record, which is ironic because as we're sitting up here and we're looking at this, Kamala with the silhouette of Ruby Bridges, like, understand the irony of that is that Kamala challenged Joe on that history. So she said, well, Joe, do you still believe in this? And there was kind of a back and forth. I think Joe finally apologized for it, but it was just but it was a sore spot. So you go from having that discord to now saying, well, I trust this man. We're gonna get on the same ticket, and we're gonna win this thing. I think there's some ideological differences there that have not been ironed out. And I don't think they're going to be ironed out because I think this whole thing is about, the word that they're using is unity, but it's really just a compromise.
Right.
And so, and that's what concerns me about, and that's where I'm really just kind of with the Biden and Harris tickets. It's kind of this laugh now, cry later type of thing. Like, there's going to be celebrating now, but I think what you're going to get, for lack of a better term, is you're going to get a more civilized Trump. And it's going to be civil, but the politics as usual are still going to exist. There's going to be a lot of pressure on the Dems because it would be great if they could flip the Senate, but I don't think they're going to flip the Senate. And so that's going to give Democrats an excuse to not govern in the way that they should govern. I would love for them to get the supermajority because I want them to be held accountable. You can't say, well, the Republicans are holding us back. No, you got the House, you got the Senate, you got the president. Let's go to work. Let's put this thing in overdrive. Same energy that the Republicans had. They're not going to be able to flip the Senate. So what you're going to see is a lot of Joe Biden and Mitch McConnell, power couple, making concessions and, hey, let's work together. and the stuff that they're going to put forth is not going to be good for the American people, or not going to be good for Black people.
I do agree with that, and I think that also I looked at it as they kind of got her as a running mate to help them to get more votes too. People
to get the Black vote.
People are gonna vote not for Biden but for the first Black vice president. We like hearing the first Black.
Who they're saying who might be because Biden's kind of he's breaking down.
Yeah, with the I guess that's sad, but the hopes of him passing so that she can become president, right?
How old is he? 78.
So he might actually get 8 years just off that alone.
I mean,
depending on how good or bad they do within these 4 years, how they can mask these 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it's about, really, right? You mentioned something in the text we had, right? And I thought it was dope, and I wanted you kind of to talk about that on here.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was important. It was a talkers versus doers. I don't know if you remember you were saying something about that.
Talkers versus
doers. And you were saying that you had a back to school drive. And that it was good for y'all to do it without bringing up politics.
Gotcha.
Because when you start bringing that up, but you said people relate to the doers for a certain reason. You can't. It was something you said. I know it was dope.
Yeah, I want to shout out community organizers in that way. A lot, and even just with what I do in terms of making a difference. I can say different things and talk about things politically and from a certain perspective, but I think it resonates with people more when they see me out in the community. I've had a chance to organize with some guys in North Augusta. Shout out, Giving Back to Black. And so we had a chance to do like a back to school drive. We're actually doing a turkey drive here in a couple of weeks.
That's what you said. Yeah, you just said that back to school drive. You said So you just pretty much said that.
Oh no, I remember the conversation.
Okay,
now
okay,
I'm good.
Right.
Yeah. Because what I was basically alluding to, and we had a chance to kind of talk about the Black Panthers.
Right.
And what I was saying was that you're able to what you have to do in terms of community outreach and even building political coalitions in a way is that for me it's something that starts locally and it's something that you build upon. There's a temptation for those of us, just really anybody who wants to kind of make a change. You want to say, well, I want to say something to Donald Trump, or I want to say something on the state level. I know for me, myself living in North Augusta, the Aiken County Democrats, I'm disappointed with right now. Because I looked at my ballot, and there were a lot of unopposed Republican seats. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to come back to the back to school thing later, but I just want to make this general point. There's a way that you have to hold people accountable on a local level before you can hold them accountable on a state level, federal level, and so on and so forth. But you have to build those coalitions locally. And the way that you're able to build those coalitions is by the people in your backyard knowing you. How can you start a movement if the people don't know you? How do you get the people to know you? That's where the back to school drive stuff comes. That's where the turkey, those turkey giveaways and those different type of things come in. Because at the end of the day, it's got to be about some type of community service and helping the people out in the community. Why? Because we've already established that the government is not helping them. If all things were just and fair, the government will look at homeless people and say, this is an indictment of our government. This is a failure on our part. So we should fix it. But they don't. They just say, they're just victims of capitalism. And so what happens is that you get good people who, are not rich by any stretch of the imagination. They're just compassionate. Mm-hmm. And they help these folks. There's a group in Augusta. Shout out Black, BLACC. They feed the homeless. And they do so with pretty good frequency. Because if I was rich, we feed the homeless every day. It's not like they only hungry on holidays. You know what I'm saying?
That's not funny.
No, I know you're not, but you just, But it's, that's a serious thing. I eat 2-3 times a day. How about y'all?
I thought 3.
Yeah. So we're saying, I see you looked over there at Slim.
He ate once today. I know he said.
I'm gonna eat again.
Okay, Slim trying to lose weight, so.
Slim, but see the way Slim says it, he's like, it's just kind of a mind thing for you. We're just like, okay, I got it. Now I lost 30 pounds.
He's 30 years old now. That's over with. He thinks it's like that. It's not like that.
Wow.
Yeah, I looked in the mirror the other day and seen them stretch marks. I said, "Whoa."
Hey, so I'm keeping up on you, buddy.
Oh man,
not young no more, man.
Nah, it's over for me.
Yeah, we gotta get a regimen now.
But no, and that's the thing that I think is missing in politics is compassion. You have to govern with that type. You have to govern with compassion, and you don't get that, and that's why so many people suffer.
All right, so you had mentioned the local elections, and I wanted to talk to you about that. How important you think it is to? Is that more important than the actual like presidency? I would say so. Like maybe voting locally, and knowing your local.
all elections are important. I'll tell you the distinction and why I prioritize local elections, and then as you build your political awareness and infrastructure, you start local, state, so on and so forth. And the reason why you do that is because, again, if you got a problem with Donald Trump, there's no getting access with him.
Right.
It's virtually impossible. You can tweet him back or however that works, but your elected official here in Augusta, you can actually go to the commission meeting, and after the meeting, you can walk up to that person and say, "Hey, this is a problem that I have on my street," so on and so forth. It's about awareness as much as it's about access.
And that's what I wanted to ask you. And I don't know if you have that information, on the back of your head like that, but I want to do that with somebody. Have a video. I don't think people know what days they can go, what days these meetings are, what time it is, where they can go, because a lot of people don't know that. That's stuff you can just go to. It's not just for them. It's for everybody. You can go there. And I'm gonna try to put something together so somebody can actually say what it is and just put it out there, because I think that'd be a dope piece of information for people to have.
I'll say it in general. A lot of this stuff, if you live in Augusta and you want information on when the commission meetings are, just go to augustaga.gov. A lot of that information is readily available about when the commission meetings are, who your commissioner is. You can go to the Secretary of State website, because I know a lot of folks want to look at their sample ballots. As a matter of fact, shout out Georgia, y'all gotta vote one more time here.
Yeah.
January 5th. If you're watching this and you are not registered to vote, you can still, if you register by December 7th, you can actually vote in that January election. So I'm actually working on some things myself, because voting for me is not, and this is what happens with voting a lot, and this is where you get into the whole lesser of the two evils bit, is that it becomes more about brand loyalty than about actual empowerment. And so I think voter empowerment is about letting people know that they have political options outside of the two-party system. I think that's a part of political empowerment. And I think there's a way that a voter's issue may be, well, I'm having some challenges. We got to hear what voters' concerns are. A lot of people, voters' concerns are crime. I get that. Poverty, is that an issue? Childcare, how do you feel about the school system? All these different types of things. We have to listen to what people are saying, and I think that's the way that you can help, that you can facilitate policy as well.
All right. Well, I needed to end with another making a difference, because I had more.
Let's do it.
So I want to end with making a difference or nah. Now, the first thing I'm gonna say is making a difference or nah. Augusta has a black DA now.
Oh man! Shout out Jared Williams. That's making a difference.
I like that.
Reason why I'm saying that is, and not just because I had him on the show. I think it's important and not just because because he's black. For one, yes, let's keep it a buck. But the man has policies and aspirations to. There's two things that he's doing I think is really important. The first thing that he's doing is that he's saying, you know what? He's introducing a spirit of benevolence in criminal justice that's sorely needed.
Yeah, I'm gonna need a definition on that. I'm sorry.
No.
Never heard that word before.
No. That's cool. I'll explain it. Grace. There needs you have low-level offenses, and again, because society wants to be tough on crime, we throw people in jail and we lock away we throw them in jail and look, I'm trying to say throw away the key. That's what I'm trying to say. All right. And let me say this for a second, because there is a liberal movement on decriminalization. So we're looking at Oregon, and I don't know if you guys heard about Oregon. They've decriminalized the small amounts of heroin and marijuana. Now here's the catch.
I did say that was going to happen a couple months ago.
Yeah, I remember that.
Good call.
Yeah. He did say that.
Do you know what the black population is in Oregon?
Yeah, it's like less than 10%.
It's 3%. It's less. It's like 2.9%. And so what I'm saying by that is that you have an overwhelmingly white population that you can say, oh, we can decriminalize drugs over here. What would that look like in Georgia and South Carolina? If you had that same type of, you understand what I'm saying?
Right, I get it.
So it's things like that. But going back to Jared, there's a grace that he's introducing to say, you know what, you might have made a mistake, but we're not going to. It's not going to define the rest of your life.
Right.
There's when I think about the injustice that's been done in terms of just the criminal justice system, and I think about, okay, so let's say if you're in jail for a low-level drug offense, and let's say we let everybody out, low level drug offense. All right, you let them out. Where are they going? Where are they going to work? You know, how do you integrate them back into society? And so, to me, I think you need reparations for that. I think there's got to be a way, because it's going to take time for these folks to get back into the get back into the system. Because if you don't, what's going to happen? They'll probably reoffend statistically.
That's it.
So it's just, again, it's about compassion. That's another word too. I feel like Jared is really you know, he's saying I want to what's the thing he said? He said I want to put kids in like class. He wants kids in classrooms, not cells. He was saying, you know, not being corny.
I liked a lot of the ideas he had though. Like,
yeah.
I know he was black, obviously that helped, but when I watched a lot of the videos that was going on before time to vote and stuff like that, people kept saying, you know, have them on. I thought it'd be dope to have them on afterwards than have them before. You know what I'm saying? I didn't want to push too much. You know what I'm saying? I want to have them when time is right.
Yeah.
That's just what I like to do. Unless somebody asks to come on, that's just different. But for me going out to reach out now, I don't necessarily do that until you in the seat or something like that.
It'll be a very compelling conversation. He's a young man who, you know, thinks well on his feet, and he definitely has a perspective.
Somebody mentioned me this morning a whole paragraph about why I should have him on the podcast. I'm going to try.
Okay.
I don't know him. You know what I'm saying? So I never spoke to him.
Yeah.
But I hit Jarrell up, and Jarrell said he going to, you know, do the rest. So we'll see from there.
Yeah, he's very accessible.
He was. I don't know. We'll see.
No, I'm saying he is. I feel like he is.
I was about to say, it's busy. It's a busy time.
I've seen him in Evans every other day. His sign up and talking to people.
Sign it over with.
Let's talk about that for a second, because the temptation should have been for him to just say, I'm just going to focus solely on Richmond and focus on Burke, because Richmond has a mostly black population. I'll say Burke County's about 50-50. Columbia County, I mean, you ride down Washington Road, it's Trump, Pence, Kelly Loeffler.
And it's only like 4,000 or 5,000 people in Columbia County, right?
No, it's significantly more. But what I'm saying isn't just in terms of the inclination for them to vote, you know, you know, vote Republican. But he was in Evans, you know, pounding the ground, you know, just committing to a grassroots campaign and just saying, look, I don't care how these people vote. I want them to see my face. I want them to know my platform, and that's commendable. He ran a hell of a campaign. Deserved to win.
Dope. The last, well, not the last one, but the next one I had for the Making a Difference Now was local elections, voting locally, making a difference on that.
Oh, making a difference. I want to shout out Dr. Patricia Hanks in North Augusta, who, for all intents and purposes, was a political unknown. She's ran for District 4 school board against the incumbent, who's Keith Liner. And, you know, didn't do too much in the way of signs, but just, you know, and I had her on my show, and she had some really good ideas. And it's just one of those things where, again, North Augusta as a whole has a 77% white population compared to 17% black. So you're kind of thinking, okay, well, it's a mostly Republican leaning town, blah, blah, so on and so forth. You kind of think they will just stick with the incumbent. Funny thing happened. She won.
That's dope.
And it's just one of those things where it's like, you got to try locally. That's, like I said, I was talking about the Aiken County Democrats earlier. That was my angst with them, is that you didn't even put people in the place to try to win. Local elections are, I mean, they're hella important. Augusta has a lot to be proud of, man. I know they're proud of Jordan Johnson. I know they're proud of Francine Scott, LaJoy Williamson, Jared Williams. History making. I think, you know, and we say history making in terms of, you know, maybe the first black and different things like that. And those things are certainly commendable. But I just want to encourage them to not fall into that, you know, the symbolism of it. Go in with a mindset of there are things that need to change in Augusta. And, you know, for black people, you know, anti-poverty measures. Not, you know, I understand the temptation to be tough on crime, but be compassionate on people who are going through some things. And I mean, you tell some very compelling stories on this podcast, man. You've had people on here who, you know, have spent time in prison or in it for an extended period of time. And you've humanized those people in a way that I think it just kind of, it reiterates the importance of folks like Jared Williams, of platforms like Jared Williams, where we're saying, you know what? We're not going to lock you up and throw away the key. We're going to have compassion.
Right. The last one, of course, like I always do, Making a Difference Making a Difference podcast / page on Facebook.
Oh man, that's one of the hottest pages on Facebook. No, I'm just wilding. No, I do want to shout out just everybody who follows that page on Facebook. You can get there, facebook.com/Makin, Makin, a different show. A lot of different conversations. I am a person, as you guys have heard on on this in this discussion. I don't pull any punches. There are things that need to be said from a black political perspective. That's not that's not partisan politics. It's about us, and those perspectives need to be presented. That's something that I'm proud of that we do on the page. I try to do so in an informational way, but I also try to do that in an entertaining way, because I understand that people are in a lot of different spots politically and ideologically, and I try to respect that.
Hey man, that's dope, man. I like I said, I think that the main goal I wanted to do today was kind of just give me a second, wait, I'm coming. Kind of just talk to you about politics, because you talk about politics a lot on your show.
Mm-hmm.
You normally talk about all the candidates, talk with most of the candidates you can to kind of give people a clear view of who they voting for or who they want to vote for. I think it's dope, because if you're not into news like that, but you listen to podcasts, you still get a good glimpse of that person, whether you like them or not. Because it's time I listen to people on your show, I'm like, okay, I don't like what they said here. You know what I'm saying? And we have a conversation. You know what I'm saying? Like, what didn't you like? What did you like? And we'll talk about stuff like that. So I think that's dope. It's another outlet to kind of help you choose like who you want to vote for or what you like about that person and whatnot. And I think that you talking politics on this show today, especially stuff you were saying, probably going against what everybody else is thinking right now.
Yeah.
But it made sense. So I think that that also gonna draw people to your page and to your podcast.
And I honestly look forward to the dialogue that that you guys will have on your page, and I'm pretty sure I'll mix it up with some folks respectfully.
Definitely.
Of course, but I just want people to know where I'm coming from, because the intent for me is social uplift for black people, not black people who graduated from HBCU, not black people who live on this certain part of town. I'm here for all of us.
Right.
So that's my passion. That's where my politics come from.
Yeah, this conversation was definitely dope, because I'm gonna be honest, I listen to everything that Ken puts out, and I probably agree with half of the things he said. But today I was like, oh, he's spitting. For real. And I know he sees some of my stuff and he be like, whoa, Slim. Like, when I put the video out about the defund the police thing, I wasn't even talking in the clip, and he was like, Slim, I need you to research this a little more. I was like, I ain't even say my part. That was homie part.
Oh, you said,
He sent me links. He DM'd me. He was like, you need to read this, you need to read that. I was like, bruh, I didn't even say that. That was his part.
That was
Nah, it's dope. And then we always talk about your podcast and just saying, like, we like how you put that finished product out there. It's like no other, like how you illustrate. It's just dope. All
make
around.
You step your game up. It's kind of like, I've been real lazy lately, so I ain't been doing a lot of reading. I've been listening to audiobooks. When I listen to his podcast, it's like an audiobook.
Word. That picture you paint is from start to finish. Even like when you stop to go to commercial and all the ads, it's all amazing, bro.
Yeah.
So keep up the good work. Keep doing what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? As you see, I got notes. I always tell people, you start me doing this. You know what I'm saying?
You just told me about that.
Matter of fact, I still got the notes from the last podcast we did. That's crazy. I can't find it right now, but it's in here somewhere. But yeah, it's a dope podcast.
Let me get back to my notes.
I know, right?
No, I was gonna say in the same breath, man. I commend y'all.
Yeah,
the thing that you guys do is you're being modest. I think Slim's being modest when he's saying being lazy. Y'all put out hella content, man.
We try to.
No, man. If I put out as much content as y'all, oh my god. And I always say, because and people may make excuses, but the fact remains, you guys love your craft. You love what you do. It doesn't matter if it's the job, if it's other endeavors, if it's your kids. You guys commit yourselves to Main and Slim, More Than the Masters, all these different type sit downs with Slim, all these different types of things you guys are doing. It's commendable, man. And as long as y'all keep working on y'all craft, man, it's just gonna keep getting bigger and better.
Well, definitely appreciate it, man. This was dope. Thank you, Slim, for coming through. You know what I'm saying? And just plug your podcast, your page, and all that stuff, man.
Oh, for sure, man. So, I'm on SoundCloud. It's Making a Difference, Makin a Difference. If you're on Spotify, iTunes, you can just look up Making a Difference and pull up the last podcast I did. That was so dope. Did y'all get a chance to hear Polar Cap, the one about Ice Cube?
No.
Yeah, check that one out. That's dope.
I'm checking that out tonight, then.
Okay.
I gotta check on Cube, man.
Look, I thought y'all was gonna ask me about Cube. I can get into that in a second. Facebook.com/Making a Difference Show. That's the Facebook page. I'm also on Twitter at Difference, DIFFERENCE, Makin, MAKIN. I tell people all the time, support Black independent media. What you guys do is Black independent media. Y'all say what y'all want to say on the show. Y'all don't have to answer to anybody. That's important, man. Because a lot of what you see, like in terms of just mass media, like you may see somebody saying, well, this is what's going on tonight in Washington, but they might as well be reading off a script. You know what I'm saying? There's things that they can and cannot say. What you hear on my show is me. And what I hear on you guys' shows is you. So I respect the hell out of it, man. So I appreciate y'all, man.
Nah, definitely, that's dope, man. Dope. All right, man. More Than Masters podcast. We out.